Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Don't forget to go to the afa.net/pray website for a daily prayer. You can pray this prayer for yourselves, for the people that you love, for the people you care about. There's a little blank there where you can fill in the blanks with the names of everybody you want to include. That circle can be as narrow or as big as you would like. So I would encourage you to think about going to that page every day. Start your day. You get up in the morning, pour your coffee, go to afa.net/pray, read the passage that's in the heading for that prayer, and then pray that prayer for the people that you love, for the people that you care about. Make that a daily habit. And in 3 years, you will have prayed the entire Word of God into the lives of the people that you love and care for. Now, Dan Cathy is learning the hard way that the homosexual lobby, gay activists, are like leeches. Remember, the Proverbs talks about the leech and says the leech has two daughters. Give, they cry. They always want more. It's never enough. And the point here is that with the homosexual lobby, you cannot ever give them enough. Don't even try. There's no point in making concessions. There's no point in capitulating. There's no point in yielding to their demands. There's no point in offering them some kind of appeasement in the hopes that they will leave you alone, that they will leave you in peace. It won't work. And Dan Cathy is finding that out the hard way. Remember, Dan Cathy, we turned out in droves, millions of us, back on August 1st, 2012, to show our support for him because he had publicly taken a stand for for natural marriage, publicly taken a stand for natural marriage. And the left just came out hammer and tongs after him. We went to his restaurants in droves to show in very tangible ways our support. Well, the homosexual lobby got to Dan Cathy, and he made a public statement not too long ago that he was never, ever going to breathe a word about homosexuality again as long as he lived. As long as he lived on the face of this earth, he was never going to breathe a word about homosexuality or marriage again. He was not going to defend his values. He wasn't going to declare them. He wasn't going to verbalize them. He wasn't going to refer to them. He wasn't going to respond to questions about them. He was going into he was under a self-imposed gag order. Now, I think one of the reasons perhaps that Dan Cathy did this is that he thought, well, maybe this will help me, because he's got a lot of his restaurants in the South. I mean, we didn't even have a Chick-fil-A in Idaho until after we left. First one came to the Boise State campus. So it's largely something that's in the South and in kind of the Southeast and maybe the Southwest. And he wants to expand into larger urban centers. And he was starting to run into some flack from these gay activists in larger cities. We don't want you here. Stay out of here. He was having trouble getting permits to build his restaurant. So perhaps Dan Cathy thought, well, maybe if I will just leave them alone, I will just drop the subject. I won't talk about it anymore. It was a mistake for me to say what I said. I never should have defended natural marriage, never should have gone public with that, never should have said what I believed, that marriage is the union of a man and a woman. This is God's design. We shouldn't accept any counterfeits. Never should have said that. That was a mistake. That was the word he used. It was a big mistake for me ever to say that. I've learned from my mistakes. I'll never make that mistake again. My values from now on are something I'm going to keep to myself. Well, if he thought that was going to work, remember Winston Churchill said back in the days of Neville Chamberlain, talking about trying to appease Adolf Hitler, appeasement is like feeding an alligator hoping that he will eat you last. Well, at the end of the day, the gator's going to eat you and you're going to be gone. There's just no way. Appeasement doesn't work. I mean, you may buy some time, but in the end, the gator is going to get you and the gator is going to eat you. And that's what Dan Cathy has discovered. He wants to open up Chick-fil-A restaurants in New York City. And I'm sure he thought that going into this cone of silence maybe would buy him some goodwill with gay activists in New York City, but he's been sadly disabused of that. New York City Councilman Daniel Drum, who, by the way, I believe is an outspoken homosexual, has made it clear that Chick-fil-A is not and never will be welcome in New York City. Quote, "We don't need bigots coming to New York City," said Drum. "They are not welcome here unless they can embrace all of New York's diverse community, including the LGBT community. And then he drove it home with a pile driver. We don't need bigoted people even keeping their opinions to themselves. They need to wake up and see reality. So notice specifically, he says, look, I know that Dan Cathy's decided to keep his opinions to himself. That doesn't matter to me because he's still a bigot. And we don't need bigots in this city, even if they're not hassling us, even if they're not saying a word about the gay agenda, even if they're not even talking about marriage. We do not need them inside our city. So I think we're just way past the time where finessing these issues is going to do us any good. It's just simply not going to work. And so there's just no point. Ladies and gentlemen, there is simply no point any longer in not just telling people what we believe. Be forthright about it. Be direct. I'm not saying be rude. I'm not saying be obnoxious, but simply declare what you believe. Don't back down. Don't twist. Don't distort. Don't waffle. Don't waver. Don't wriggle. Declare what you believe and why you believe it. I mean, you don't have to say anything more than I believe that marriage is the union of one man and one woman. I believe that's the way God designed marriage, and I believe that's what the scriptures teach. Now, you'll get blowback on that. Who cares? I mean, at the end of the day, who cares? Because you're right. This is what God has said. This is God's design. And so stand up for it. Stand with it. Don't back down. Don't retreat, even if you cannot answer all of the questions that they may throw at you or accusations. We're just way past the time, ladies and gentlemen, where we can finesse this any longer. You know, and we saw that study yesterday, a poll that was commissioned by WPA Opinion Research. 82% of Republicans and 82% of independents who lean Republican believe that marriage ought to be the union of one man and one woman. It's still a winning issue. If you want to galvanize your base, Republican Party, if you want to galvanize your base, here's an issue that 82% of the members of your own party believe, and 82% of independents that are leaning your way, this is what they believe. This politically is a winner. You know, we had the Nevada GOP pulling this thing out of their state platform. They're getting rid of social issues, and a lot of people want to do that with the platform of the Republican Party. But here, how many of your platform issues, ask your Republican leadership, how many of your platform issues do you have 82% of your party agreeing with you about that platform issue? That makes it a winner. And so, you know, what we need Republicans. We need Republicans in leadership that are going to stand for natural marriage without apology, knowing that they are speaking for 82% of their own party. And it's not just about the political fortunes of the Republican Party. I mean, if they pull marriage from the national platform, that would be wrong. It would be an evil thing to do. It would be a cowardly capitulation to the forces of sexual deviancy, but it also would be politically stupid because you'd be moving away from your base. This is what Republicans don't calibrate. If your base is over here on the right, just to use that metaphor, on the right, 82% of the people hold this view of here. They're over here. This is what they believe on the right about marriage. If you try to triangulate to the center, you try to move to the center, and ladies and gentlemen, there is no center. There is no middle ground. You are either for sodomy-based marriage or you are against it. That's it. It's a binary proposition. You're for it or you're against it, period. There is no center. But Republicans want to believe there is because they're trying to avoid the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune and so forth. So their tendency is to want to kind of slide to the middle to keep from getting caught up in the buzzsaw of political correctness and the homosexual agenda. Well, realize what you're doing. Just visualize this. As you move to the center, your base isn't moving. Your base is standing right where they have always stood on the Word of God and God's design for human sexuality. They're not budging. They're not moving. They're not going anywhere. That's where they have taken their stand. Still, after all of the brainwashing, still have 82% of Republicans believe that marriage is one man, one woman. 75% of them are saying don't redefine it. I don't want politicians redefining the issue of marriage. Well, if you gravitate to the center, what are you doing? You are pulling away from your base. You are creating distance between you and the people that have got to turn out and vote for you in November. That's what makes it a politically stupid thing to do. It's political suicide to do that. And the Republican Party's already witnessed that. They've seen that in 2008. They've seen that in 2012. When you have candidates a ticket that's very tepid on social issues, what happens? People just stay home. 4 million conservative voters, social conservative voters, just stayed home in 2012 because there was nothing about Romney and Ryan Ticket that enthused them on social issues. They saw no passion there. They saw no commitment there. They saw no conviction there. And there was just nothing that galvanized them to go to the trouble to get out and vote. Now, I say bad on them, but the point is Republican Party is not innocent in the fact that turnout was down among social conservatives. So if the Republican Party makes this same mistake in 2016, which I'm afraid they are going to make that same mistake, if they make that mistake, that will be bad for the Republican Party. But here's the thing that's more important, way more important to me. It will be bad for America because right now the Republican Party is the only one of the political parties on the national scene that even pretends to stand for Judeo-Christian morality, especially on matters of sexuality and marriage and life. They're it. So if the Republican Party does not publicly take a stand for life and for marriage, again, this isn't about labels. This is not about political parties. This is about having some organized agency that's involved in the formation of public policy that actually will defend natural marriage. Right now, the Republican Party is it. Libertarians aren't going to do it. Democrats are certainly not going to do it. Socialists are not going to do it. So it's up to the Republican Party. If anybody involved in public policy is going to do it and make a political difference, it's going to have to come from the Republican Party. And again, I'm not endorsing the Republican Party or anything like that. Do not misunderstand me. This is just an objective assessment of where we're at. Well, America needs this. America needs a voice to stand for natural marriage, to stand up for the Judeo-Christian tradition that made this nation great. And frankly, I think, ladies and gentlemen, you and I know it, that not only is the Republican Party running out of time and chances, but America is running out of time and chances. And so I think conservatives want to hope that the Republican Party in 2016 will run an unapologetic supporter of natural marriage, where they can kiss their future and perhaps the future of the United States of America goodbye. You're listening to Focal Point on AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. We'll be right back. Stay with us.